Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Happening here at home, and that's India's Prime Minister Modi.
The White House is getting ready for the coming state visit by Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the U.S. this week has much excitement around it. PM Modi will also be addressing the U.S. Congress for the second time. Last week, the National Security Advisors, NSAs, of the two countries met in New Delhi, and India's Ajit Doval ended up calling the visit an orbital jump in the relationship. The US and India are poised to lead in clean energy transformation, shore up and diversify global semiconductor supply chains and supply chains in other critical goods, and lead the revolution in AI, advanced computing, biotech, and quantum technologies. Multi-billion-dollar military deals will also be signed. From acquisition of M31 MQ-9 Predator B armed drones to General Electric manufacturing F-414 jet engines through 100% manufacturing route in India. So how do the US and India fit into each other's strategies? What are the risks and where do they accrue?
Tensions are rising in one of the most hotly contested regions on the planet, the South China Sea.
Quad Security Alliance has spooked China yet again.
At one level, there's China.
American aircraft, this is the PLA Air Force. You are approaching Chinese airspace.
Though both have different concerns.
That today the state of our relations with China are not normal.
Both are unhappy with Beijing and are busy buttressing their economies and defense against an aggressive Xi Jinping and his CCP. With the US now firmly closing off China from both access to know-how and manufacturing across many critical and emerging technologies, CETs, overseas investments are no longer cost-driven tactics left to firms as they were between 1990 and 2020. They're intertwined into the national competitive advantage that nation-states seek in both geoeconomics and geopolitics. Technology and the resources obtained therefrom drive future conflicts, the exercise of power, and the use of influence. It's not new. It happened during the Cold War. Global events this past year have also indicated that technology collaboration and the consequent dependence is as much a weapon as any other tools of war. India's complex needs. The scenario for India is extremely complex. The tie-ups in critical and emerging technologies are meant not just to boost India's economy. They're about tackling strategic challenges across trade and security in a neighborhood fraught with uncertainty. With one neighbor, a geopolitical rival, China, that's openly revanchist. India's critical needs are not just economic, they're also about acquiring the capabilities to manage the emerging security challenges on its borders and in the Indo-Pacific while projecting power firmly enough to counter China without entering US-led wars. Technology transfer commitments from the US then assume a tri-cornered economical, political, and security garb. India, on the one hand, still needs Russia, at least in the near term, if not for its military hardware and oil, at least for the UN veto on Kashmir. That might change with Russia's dependence on China. On the other hand, India professes it would like to project its own power across the Indo-Pacific, and not just hang on to US coattails. A firm-level technology transfer alliance at even mid to high mid-levels of technology would tie into several other political alliances that India deems multilateral, but remains centered around the US. India is engaging with the other two Quad countries, Japan and Australia, on CET issues, ranging from critical minerals to undersea cables. China's BRI and its influence over some of its BRI countries, besides Russia, will become central to the game of standards in the quest for economic and geopolitical hegemony. The US alliances are meant to counter just that, and India's tech and market capabilities mean it fits in neatly. India and US's strategy. The US attitude towards technology was spelled by former President Donald Trump's administration in its national strategy for CETs. President Biden's administration has the same goals, although articulated in a slightly different language. It's about countering China and building US competitive advantage. Since the Initiative for Critical and Emerging Technologies, ICET, was announced by Modi and Biden in Tokyo in May 2022, much has been expected. India's challenge is about utilizing the US's asymmetric advantages in technology to enhance its economic and strategic stability, gaining commercial advantage across manufacturing and services, enhancing defense capabilities, and mitigating risks from technology transfers at the firm level. This is where India's own near-term constraints and long-term goals become tricky. An assembly operation is not a long-term value add for the economy, though it does push up exports in the short term. Firm-level technology transfer implies shifting manufacturing locally to India, but this must be accomplished without impacting US economic concerns like local employment. That's where India's national purchases like commercial aircraft and military drones come in.
This is the mother of all aviation deals.
Whopping multi-billion-dollar deal, making it the largest shopping event in commercial aviation history in the whole world.
One airline for new aircraft that has ever been placed, a total of 470 planes being ordered by Air India.
On February 15, 2023, Air India announced that it would buy 470 planes from Airbus and Boeing in one of the biggest aviation orders globally, as the country's air passenger market rebounds from the depths of the coronavirus pandemic. Air India's mega order for Airbus and Boeing aircraft is estimated between $70 and $80 billion. President Joe Biden hailed it as a historic agreement. Harsha Bogle, commentator and journalist, tweeted, "I hadn't imagined a day would come when an American president would issue a statement that an order placed by an Indian company would lead to 1 million American jobs over 44 states." He is half correct. Air India's mega deal was also hailed by UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak.
It's billions of pounds of investment and thousands of jobs, so it's great news.
And French President Emmanuel Macron. Sunak noted Airbus will manufacture the wings in the UK, and A350 aircraft will be powered by Rolls-Royce's XWB engines. He also added the deal will provide more jobs in the UK's aerospace sector, which employs over 111,000 people as of 2022. He further added that India is projected to be the world's third largest economy by 2050, so export wins like this are a big boost to the UK trade, a key way to grow the UK's economy. French President Macron tweeted, "The contract that Airbus and Tata Sons signed this morning marks a new stage in India and France's strategic partnership. Thank you, Narendra Modi, for your confidence in France and our industry." Just a day earlier, the Indian budget airline Indigo, rival of Air India, placed a massive order for 500 Airbus A320 passenger jets, trumping the previous order of Air India. Indian firms are set to buy a whopping 1,000 passenger jets. The significance of the biggest order for passenger aircraft in history goes far beyond Indian aviation. It has the potential to boost flagging Western economies and send a vital diplomatic message of mutual partnership. But not everything is rosy.
Policy chief is calling for a crackdown on the EU's fuel imports from India, which he says could actually be refined Russian oil.
Because my understanding of the Council regulations is that if Russian crude is substantially transformed in a third country, then it's not treated as Russian anymore. I would urge you to look at Council Regulation 833/2014.
India's refusal to sanction Russia did irk the US and its Western European partners. India's fiery foreign minister went on a diplomatic offensive, calling out the duplicitous nature of the rich Europeans who continued to buy Russian oil well into a year after Russian invasion of Ukraine.
The previous observation. Somewhere Europe has to grow out of the mindset that Europe's problems are the world's problems, but the world's problems are not Europe's problems.
In May, India brought in 1.96 million barrels of Russian crude oil a day. The daily average hit records for 8 months in a row. At first glance, Modi's India First policy seems to have helped Russia weather Western sanctions. But a careful study of trade figures reveals that what could look like an act of selfishness by India appears to have had benefits for others. India's imports of Russian oil actually stabilized the crude oil prices, which were prophesized to hit $200 a barrel, which would have already complicated the high inflation hitting Western economies. Prime Minister Modi's visit to the US signifies a momentous convergence of India's rising power and the Western world's recognition of its potential. As India inches closer to becoming the world's third largest economy, its strategic collaborations and alliance with the US hold immense geopolitical significance. The integration of India's economic prowess, technological capabilities, and partnership in sectors like aviation propels its ascent on the global stage. By forging deeper ties with India, Western nations stand to unlock opportunities for economic growth, technological innovation, and geopolitical stability. Together, India and the Western world can navigate a transformative era, shaping a prosperous, secure, and multipolar global landscape.